Welcome to the Fantasy Champions Fantasy Football Podcast. Here's your host, Morgan Colby and Rick Lemon.
What's crack-a-lackin', Fantasy Champs? My name's Morgan Colby. No Rick Lemon with me today. He had to scoot when we were recording this podcast for school reasons. And I'm alone. I'm alone, as you can see. So this week's episode going to be this week's episode of the Thursday Night Preview should be interesting. We do have a more interesting matchup than last week's matchup. It was kind of like just sitting everyone. But this should be like a 10-15 minute episode for you today. A little bit shorter Thursday Night Preview, something that you can digest a little bit more. Our last episode, if you want to check that out, somewhere on the screen it came up. But we talked about some booms and busts and waiver wire ads for the week. So if some of those guys are still available, my goodness, your league mates are sleeping. But go see if they're still available. But anyway, we do have a Thursday night preview, a Thursday night football game on Thursday between the Detroit Lions and the Packers. I'm so excited about week 4. I'm so excited there's football. And this would be the first quarter of the season, I guess, first 4 or 5 weeks. So, lots of football still left to be played. I love the NFL, love the NFL season. It's the greatest time of year. But anyway, before we jump into the Thursday night preview, check out our website, fantasychampions.com. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. If you're listening on Apple Podcast, Spotify, Stitcher, or any other podcasting platforms, please leave a review, share this podcast with your friends. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe, click the bell for notifications, like, and comment down below any questions you may or may not have for us. All right, the quarterback, I jumped right in. I didn't even tell you about the matchup. Lions at Packers. So the Lions are going to the Green Bay Packers, and they are going to match up in Thursday Night Football. The over-under is 45 points currently, so if it changes, obviously. If I had to take the over or the under in this game, I would probably take the over. It's really close. I would take the over. You take the risk and take the over. Well, you know what? You take the under. It's Thursday Night Football. Never mind. I changed my mind. I'll take the under. At the end of the show, I will make my pick for this game. Rick took I think he took the Detroit Lions, but he's 3-0 on the season on Thursday Night Football picks. I'm 1-2, so I've sucked so far. I suck. But all right. So let's break down this Thursday Night Football game and send you on your merry way. We're going to start with the Detroit Lions and the quarterback position for Detroit, which happens to be Jared Goff. Jared Goff has been an interesting guy. For the last couple of years, he's been a streaming option. Right now, he's QB9 on the season. First 3 weeks of the season, he's got 15, 26, and 20 fantasy points. This is in a 5-point quarterback touchdown league, by the way. So it's more like 14, 23, and 19. But I mean, those are pretty respectable performances, making him the QB9 on the season, so far. He has this matchup against Green Bay, and Green Bay, they've been doing okay against the, they've been doing decently, against the quarterback position so far this year. They've given up somewhere around 16.7 fantasy points. So, if Jared Goff overperforms a little bit, he might be in the range of like 18 to 20. It's kind of tough for me. It depends. Like, I don't see him as a bad streaming option. If Jair Alexander is out for this game, like, I think it's a really good, juicy matchup for Jared Goff. And you could probably stream him and start him in this game. If Alexander is there, it makes it a little bit tougher. It's also on Thursday night. So I'm like, I don't like to stream quarterbacks on Thursday night. It's kind of like it's kind of like a bad, you're asking for bad things to happen if you're starting a quarterback in a streaming option on Thursday Night Football. I'd rather do it on Monday or Sunday Night Football if you're choosing a night game or a primetime game. So, like, Goff going out on Thursday night, like, I expect him to be around 16 to 18 fantasy points, but he's not going to do anything crazy. If your league is they store all the quarterbacks in their bunkers, and your only option is Jared Goff, then I would go with it. But if you have a better option, I'd probably take a pass on Jared Goff this week and go from there. Let's talk about the running back position a little bit. We have David Montgomery, we have Jahmyr Gibbs. I want to take a look at these snap splits this week, and let me just pull them up real quick to kind of go through what week 3 looked like for the snap percentages. Because very interesting situation with Detroit. They like to split their running back snaps pretty evenly, but they've been talking about getting more opportunities for Jahmyr Gibbs, which is good. We like Jahmyr Gibbs more than we like David Montgomery. Now, Montgomery was completely out this past week. I forgot about that. So Montgomery was out 60% of the offensive snaps, just around there, went to Jahmyr Gibbs. So, he was on the field for majority of the time, 30% to Craig Reynolds, 15% to Jason Abadina. I do want to see if David Montgomery is expected to play this week. Currently, he was limited in practice on Monday. So that's a good sign for him to come back based on like what we saw in week 2 and those snap percentages. I would say, both of these guys aren't bad starts if you're, if you had to choose a guy. Detroit in last week gave 48% of the snaps to Jahmyr Gibbs, 45% of the snaps to David Montgomery. So far on the full season at the running back position, it's been a pretty fair split. Not really. 61 to 44 so far. I think it's going to get more to 50-50. I think you'll see that on Thursday night. It depends on if the Lions get into a negative game script. I would expect to see more Gibbs. If it's more of a ground and pound, and they get into a lead early and they want to run the game out instead of try to score a lot of points, then you're probably going to see a lot of Montgomery. I'm okay with starting one of these guys, with Jahmyr Gibbs being the higher ceiling. If you have both of them on your team, you're choosing between the both of them, I would choose Jahmyr Gibbs. But Gibbs has if you have him, I would put him in your flex because there's always an upside that he catches a bunch of passes and scores a touchdown in this game. Montgomery also has touchdown upside, but he doesn't get a whole ton of pass catching opportunities. So, he is going to be tied to scoring a touchdown in the game, which he's done a little bit of, but we're going to have to see. So, I would be okay with starting either one of these guys in this game, but just be known that there could be situations. Green Bay does have a decent front, I think. So I'm just going to pull up the numbers really quick to see how many points they give up. Green Bay gives up 21 points a game to the running back position, so they're not great. So I would start, I could start either one of those guys this week. Moving to the wide receiver position, you have Amon-Ra St. Brown, and then I would say everyone else is kind of in a weird hemisphere. Like I wouldn't start Marvin Jones in any reality. He might be rostered on your team or something, but I wouldn't start him. Josh Reynolds, same boat. Like I wouldn't start him either. But Amon-Ra St. Brown, he's an automatic start this week. You kind of have to get him on the field, and especially if you don't see Jair Alexander on the field for this game, which I don't know what it looks like for him yet because I'm recording this on Monday. I would anticipate that Amon-Ra has a really, really good week, and he'll get a lot of opportunity, a lot of pass-catching opportunity. Green Bay has been pretty stout with him on the field, with 23 fantasy points a game going to the wide receiver position. So I would anticipate he has a pretty good game, and you can start him with confidence. Tight end position, Sam Laporta's been really good, and we told you to pick him up if he was available on the waiver wire show this week. Obviously, he's owned in 73% of leagues, so, he probably wasn't available for you, but if he was, go pick him up, go get him. If he's still available, my goodness, what are you people doing? But Laporta this week against the Green Bay Packers, in 3 weeks so far this year, the Green Bay Packers have given up somewhere around 9 points a game to the tight end position, which is, one of the easier matchups in the league. Top 12, I think, easier matchup. So I think I would be okay with starting Sam Laporta in this game. There's not a lot of pass catching options on the Lions. It's really just Amon-Ra and Sam Laporta. And if they're down Jair Alexander, I think they're going to try to put a lot of focus defensively onto Amon-Ra. And he'll still have success, obviously, like I said. But Sam Laporta could get some opportunities in the middle of the field. as well. So I would start Sam Laporta this week. I don't think that's a big deal, but be careful with the Thursday night football games in the garbage. There's a better option this week. I would jump off Sam Laporta. So yeah, there's the Detroit Lions. Like I said, I don't anticipate there being like a massive fantasy performances from the Detroit Lions offense, but there's some good players in there to watch. Can't wait to watch Jahmyr Gibbs live in action during a football game and just feel that situation out. But they are playing the Green Bay Packers, and the Green Bay Packers have been extremely interesting this year. They, a lot of people thought they were going to kind of fade into the distance and not be a great football team. But we got some interesting games. Jordan Love he's been slinging it. He's been doing okay. He started slow against the Saints, but kind of put it together. Didn't have a lot of pass catching options that he normally has. But he's been pretty good on the season. He's the QB 20. I think it's 23, 20. And 25, and he's been providing some rushing upside as well. So some good things there for Jordan Love. On the freaking season so far, he has 74 rushing yards in 3 games. So he might be a guy that can get somewhere around 250 to 300 rushing yards. And if he provides that kind of floor, Jordan Love actually becomes a really good fantasy option at the quarterback position and becomes that breakout, I guess, in the later rounds that people were kind of looking for. I kind of shifted on and off of drafting him late, but good situation for him in this game. He's going up against the Detroit Lions, and Detroit has actually been much improved in the passing department. They held Patrick Mahomes to a low number. On the season, they have been I'm trying to find their points per game. They've given up 16 points a game, so similar to Green Bay. So this is a Thursday night football game. I keep going back to this. Like, I don't look at Jordan Love as a complete streaming option, but I do look at him as a guy that, you know what I mean? Like, because he's going to be more of a start on a week-to-week basis, possibly. I do like Jordan Love in that aspect. But Thursday Night Football is always a weird time, and, this week he ended up being decent, for fantasy football because of some of the rushing and stuff like that. But there's also, a floor to Jordan. A low floor to Jordan Love where he could have a really bad week against a good defense. So I expect 16 to 18 fantasy points from him as well. Like, this is going to be more of a mid performance than anything else, but I do anticipate that he'll be good. Hopefully he can continue his winning ways in this game against Detroit. Moving on to the running back position, I don't know if Aaron Jones played in this game. I have to check because he was out for this game. So second straight week he was out. Going up against Detroit this week, right now the reports are is that he was a limited participant in Monday's practice. He's been out 2 straight weeks nursing that hamstring injury, so he does have a chance to play in week 3, but I'd keep an eye on it. If he does, I don't know. Obviously you feel like you have to start him against the Green Bay Packers, and they currently on the season have given up 20. I keep saying against the Green Bay Packers, against the Detroit Lions is what I meant to say. Detroit has given up 15.5 fantasy points as running back position, so it's not a good or bad matchup. Jones seems to be pretty good in prime time a lot of the time, so getting him back would be a major benefit for a lot of fantasy teams, but I don't know if he's going to play, so keep an eye on it. Obviously, he's a start and he's a go, and I think he'll do decently this week, probably around 14, 15 fantasy points against the Detroit Lions. But then you also have A.J. Dillon, who's been really not good, and I would just stay away from A.J. Dillon. I actually kind of curious. I didn't look at his numbers for this week's game when he played against the New Orleans Saints. He had 52% of the snaps, 11 rushes, 33 yards, so he's just not good. He's somebody that shouldn't be on your team anymore. You're okay dropping him if you want, and I definitely wouldn't play him in this game. If he's the only guy active, I'm not starting him either. So, I do feel like A.J. Dillon's probably going to be a guy that stays out of the lineup this week, regardless of whether Aaron Jones plays or not. Let's talk about the wide receiver position. We got Christian Watson going up against the Detroit Lions. And then you have Romeo Doubs and Jaden Reed, 3 guys who have been interesting players so far this year. Big issue for me here is Christian Watson's been out for a little bit, and I do want to give you an update on Christian Watson here and just see what the situation is for him, because I do think there's some interesting situations. He was out this week. He's been out pretty much the whole season so far. He did not practice on Monday. Monday's not an actual practice, but they release like a participation estimation, like, you know, who they expected to participate in the game, and he did not practice on Monday in that situation. So if he practices Tuesday, maybe he's back. But there is from reports I heard that there's a good chance that he could miss another week this week and just wait till week 5 to make his debut. He's been out for a little bit. As soon as he gets back, I feel like he's just, you can roll him into your lineup and hope that he is, the guy that he was with Rodgers. But that leaves Romeo Doubs and Jaden Reed, who both, I wouldn't start either one of these guys this week. I think it's too risky. Doubs did have, a decent week this week, 12 targets. He only had 5 catches, but he did come down with a touchdown. He's had 18, 5, and 18 so far this year. So, there's some good things with Romeo Doubs. Like, if you're desperate, maybe you can start Romeo Doubs. And then Reed has also put together some decent performances so far on the season as well. He's had 6, 19, and 9 and getting decent target share, but he's not a guy that I want to roll out in this game either. Kind of scared of that. So, and then when you look at like Detroit's defense, like I said, has been pretty good this year. The Detroit Lions only giving up 24.2 fantasy points to the wide receiver position. So, and it's on Thursday night, so those numbers could, come down a little bit. So I wouldn't start either one of these wide receivers. If Watson is back and playing, I would be okay starting him as a flex this week and just see where you go. But interesting situation there. And then at the tight end position, you have Luke Musgrave. I did say on the waiver wire show, I'm okay with starting Musgrave in a needed scenario. So if you want to start him in this game and you're streaming tight ends, I don't dislike this matchup against Detroit. I think you can go with it. So I'd start Musgrave. I don't expect a big game, but I do think that there's an opportunity for a touchdown, especially when the pass catching the pass catching options for this team aren't great without Christian Watson. So there's the Green Bay Packers. I don't expect this to be a high-flying affair, so I probably should take... Yeah, I did take the under, didn't I? I go back to the under. 45 points. Under. All right, now I got to do my pick. So Rick has taken if you didn't watch Tuesday's show, Rick took the Detroit Lions. I think he took the Detroit Lions. I want to say he took the Detroit Lions. Go back to find out on that show. I think he took the Detroit Lions. I'm gonna take the Packers. The Packers are at home at Lambeau, and they usually play well there. Love has been slinging it, so I think the Packers win this game. It's gonna be very, very close, and I'm rooting for the Detroit Lions, but I'm gonna take the Packers. We'll roll with it. Yeah, there you go. Leave who you think is gonna win in the comments. There's a nice short show for you this week. A little longer than I anticipated, but that's your Thursday night preview for the week. So hopefully you enjoyed this pod. Be sure to like it, give it a thumbs up, leave a comment down below any questions you have for the game, and be sure to check out our Starts and Sit show coming up tomorrow. We'll see you later, guys. Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Fantasy Champions Podcast. Make sure you subscribe on iTunes and YouTube, and follow us on Twitter @TheFFChamps.